Every single day, I get confirmation that I am doing the right thing with this bourbon bougie community that we're creating, this global community that is reaching out to younger women, older women, aunties, grannies, and having these conversations, sharing our global perspective. So I have this young lady that reached out to me in my bourbon bougie mailbox, my inbox. You can find me on bourbon bougie. In I'm sorry, on Reddit and on Instagram if you need to send me a story time. Okay, so this woman says, "Hello, Burby. I'm a 24-year-old woman, and your videos have taught me a lot about the risk of relationships. I never had any interest in relationships to begin with, and your videos, along with other media, have solidified my beliefs that I do not need nor want to be with a man at all. It helped me to get out of my pick me phase, which I am not proud of, but I'm glad I came to my senses thanks to your videos. I need to let women know that a lot of us, not all, a lot of us have this pick me phase because we are raised up in the church. We're raised up in religion that teaches women to center men and serve a male God. So being a pick me is part of the indoctrination and it's not your fault. We just have to get out of it. All right, so she says, anyways, I wanted to share with you a history lesson where I live that is an interesting tale of the church's influence in the government since the time of colonization and how women were the primary victims, as well as the First Nation, natives, indigenous. But I will focus on the abuse of women. It's a bit long, but you will be fascinated by this piece of history. Okay, she says, I am from Canada, the province of Quebec. Now, my numbers might not be correct since it's been a little while since high school, but I remember a summary of it. Okay, so this is titled How Quebec Was Built on the Oppression and Manipulation of Women by the Church. She says, anyways, when the French colonized the land in the 1600s in order to grow the population, France implemented a system to reward families with large sums of money and land the more children they had. However, as the population grew and Quebec earned its independence, the church took over and began to instill fear in families that they would go to hell if they stopped having children. In fact, the woman would be at fault for dooming the family for going to hell. For the next centuries, the church had a strong hold over the government and kept getting heavily involved in family matters. If your local church noticed you weren't pregnant soon after giving birth, they would knock on your door and demand answers with threats of going to hell if the couple didn't get to business anytime soon. In the late 1800s, families were getting pretty tired of the power the church had over their lives, women having to bear all the burden that comes with motherhood, and husbands that did not want to lose their wives and be left alone with over 10 children to take care of. The 1900s was the century of change. In the beginning of the 1900s, was starting to see groups of women rally together to demand for their right to vote and work. By 1940, the Second World War, women were introduced into the working field. And by the end of World War II, they did not want to lose their access to the workforce. The 1960s, feminism began to make major changes in society. However, patriarchy was not happy about it, so they made it hell for women who entered the workforce by discriminating, harassing, banning them from certain jobs, getting reduced salaries, and stopping them from having access to certain work benefits men had access to. The church was not happy at all and began to get more involved in education of girls, introducing family economics classes where girls were given a special book on how to be a good wife. Here's the translation I personally made since it's written in French. I'm sorry in advance if some of the sentences may not be grammatically or structurally correct. It's a bit long. I promise you will have a good laugh with this. As I was reading her translation, it sounded like what we got here in America in the 1950s from the Good Housewives Guide. So listen closely. Make sure supper is ready. Prepare everything in advance, the night before if necessary, so a delicious meal awaits him when he comes back from work. It is a way of letting him know you thought about him and you care about his needs. The majority of men are hungry when coming back home, and the perspective of a good meal, especially their favorite meal, makes part of the necessary warming welcome I'm sorry, makes the welcome warm. Be ready. Take 15 minutes to rest so you are relaxed when he comes back. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon on your hair, and be fresh and agreeable. He spent all day in company of people overcharged with worries and work. Be cheerful and a bit more interesting than them. His hard day needs to be brightened up, and it is one of your duties to make sure it is done as such. Clean the mess. Make a last tour around the principal rooms before your husband comes back. Pick up the school books, the toys, the papers, etc., and clean the dust from the tables. Around the coldest months of the year, you will have to prepare and light up the fire in the chimney in which he will rest close to it. Your husband will have the feeling of reaching a haven of peace and order, and it will make you happy as well. Definitely, to take care of his comfort will give you a great personal satisfaction. Reduce all sounds to the minimum. The moment he arrives, eliminate all sounds from the washing machine, dryer, or vacuum. Try to encourage the children to stay calm. Be happy to see him. Welcome him with a warm smile and show your sincerity in wanting to please him. Listen to him. It is possible you may have a dozen of important things to say to him, but his arrival is not the opportune time. Let him speak first. Remember, his subjects of conversation are more important than yours. Make sure the evening belongs to him. You don't get to your little lady problems. Never complain if he comes home late or goes out to dinner or other places of entertainment without you. On the contrary, try to make sure that your home is a haven of peace where your husband may rest his body and soul. Do not greet him with your complaints or your problems. Do not complain if he comes home late for supper or stays out all night. Consider it a minor issue compared to what he had to do during the day. Make him comfortable. Propose him to rest in a comfortable chair or the bedroom. Prepare him a fresh or hot drink. Arrange the pillows and propose you take off his shoes. Speak to him in a soothing, pleasant voice. Do not question him on what he did or question his judgment and integrity. Remember, he is the master of the house, and as such, he will always exercise his authority with justice and honesty. When he's done with supper, quickly clean the table. If your husband offers to help, decline his offer since it might risk making him feel obliged to repeat the task. And after a long day of labor, he does not need more work. Encourage your husband to spend time on his hobbies and show your interest without giving the impression you are stomping on his domain. If you have little hobbies, make sure to not bother him by talking about it, since the interests of women are pretty insignificant compared to the men's. At the end of the evening, clean the house so it's ready for the next morning and think about preparing his breakfast in advance. Your husband's breakfast is essential if he wants to give the world with positivity, maybe greet the world with positivity. Once you are both ready to head to the bed, prepare yourself to go to bed as quickly as possible. So this woman gets to work all day and all night, but then she has to comfort him and make sure that he's ready for just a work shift. But she has to work all day. All right, it says, although feminine hygiene is important, your husband doesn't want to wait in line. However, make sure to be at your best when going to bed. Make sure to have a nice appearance without being seductive. In what concerns intimate relationships with your husband, it is important to remember your wedding vows and, in particular, your obligation to obey him. If he estimates he needs sleep immediately, so be it. In any case, be guided by your husband's desires and do not ever pressure him or provoke or stimulate an intimate relationship. If your husband suggests coupling, accept with humility while keeping in mind that the desire of a man is more important than the desire of a woman. When he obtains orgasm, a little moaning from your part will encourage him and will be enough to indicate any form of pleasure you may have had. If your husband suggests a less current form of practice, show yourself to be obedient and submissive, but indicate your eventual lack of enthusiasm by keeping quiet. It is possible your husband will quickly fall asleep. Adjust your clothes, refresh yourself, apply your face cream and hair products. And lastly, wake up earlier than him. It will allow you to have his cup of tea ready at his disposition when he wakes up. All right, so then she shares the link, and I click the link. It is in French. All right, it says after that, feminism was on the rise. The Catholic Church was kicked out of the government. Women eventually earned their rights and even managed to make Quebec the only province, I'm sorry, in all of Canada where women don't have to change their last name. Anyways, this was long, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I did. This was amazing. And I'm so glad that we have women that are sharing their histories. But if you listen to this, and these dates that she gave, a lot of these dates overlap the exact same thing that was going on in America. And like I said, even this article sounds just like the 1955 Good Homekeeping article that was put out. It said pretty much everything word for word. All right, y'all, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and I don't know if you guys have seen this video that's going viral of this man, this Christo-fascist, this forced birther, this Theo bro, Joel Weeben, where he's calling for the public unalivement of women who falsely claim that they've been SA'd. He said the Me Too movement will end real fast. All you have to do is publicly unalive a few women. He said this. And it is wild to have Margaret Atwood, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, weigh in and retweet this. She says, how about this one? Hanging, shooting, or gassing. And while you're at it, unalive a bunch that haven't lied. Oh, and maybe some flogging first, disemboweling. Full 14th century. How about men that have lied about raping people? I guess not, eh? Remember the people of the wall during The Handmaid's Tale, women who pushed back, the members of the LGBT community, people that committed adultery. There were lots of reasons for people to end up on the wall. And if we let these Christo-fascist forced birthers, these people that are pushing Project 2025, that want to strip away women's rights, if we allow them to strip away women's rights, it's just going to be, a complete, taking away of rights left and right. It's just that they are coming for women first. I mean, obviously they're coming for gay folks as well. They're coming for, this, it's going to all be, it's going to be all of the groups that are not Christian, white, and straight, period. Miss ML says, to think, when you wrote The Handmaid's Tale, it was fiction, but not really. She's already said that she wrote this based on things that have happened. It was a fictional book, but it was based on reality. It's based on historical things, historical experiences of women. She admitted that. But okay, so it says, and now, unfortunately, the fall of Gilead will not come fast enough. We still seem to be building it. We are building it. They are coming for it. They think that this is a guide. Dan said, though, she has said before, everything in The Handmaid's Tale has happened somewhere in the world previously. The fiction is happening in a reorganized United States, but not the activities. Tony says he read your book and thought it was an instruction manual. And that is absolutely what he thinks. And let's not be obtuse in thinking that this won't happen. A lot of the things that they are trying to implement, they're doing it step by step. Their Project 2025 that's their layout, that's their game plan. So don't be surprised. All right, y'all, let me know what you think. Here is his video now.
If that were to occur and the just penalties were to be enforced, you, the false accuser, is now put to death, and that's a public death. It's a public sentence, publicly carried out. Then the citizens of these United States of America, you know what they would do? Hashtag Me Too would end real fast. How do you, false accusing? Playing the victim when you're actually not? Like, you know how to end that real fast? All you have to do is publicly execute a few women who have lied. And